Board in there.
Okay, there we go. Now we're back up. Sorry.
Hi, this is Kathy Lincoln from Artistic Artifacts, and we are going to be playing with a number 12 and number 12C foot. It's one of my favorite feet. I have been literally using it for decades. I have an old one that I put on my 1530 back in the 90s. So we are going to play with this foot, and we're going to explore its possibilities. If you have the big book of feet, there are 4 pages on this particular foot. So there's a lot of information available. It is called the bulky overlock foot. Now I think that's a pretty not good name. But when you see one of its functions, then you'll know that it makes sense. So if you look at the bottom of the foot, you want to show them the bottom of the foot. This is the 12C, and you'll see on the top it has a hole where you can put cording in through, just like the 21 did. But it has this groove cut out of the bottom, and this groove allows you to go over really heavy fabric or fit your piping perfectly in the groove. Now the 12, let me take this out of here, has all the same things, but this is designed for the 5.5 millimeter feed dogs. So it doesn't have the opening in the front. So if you have 5.5 millimeter feed dogs, this is the one you want to use. If you have 9 millimeter feed dogs, you want to use the C version. So let's talk about what we can do with this foot. We can do piping, we can do putting heavy fabrics together. I'm going to show you how fleece works beautifully with this foot. You can use pearls, you can cord an edge of a seam. I am going to show you how to do piping, and this is how I did this piping on this pillow. Now this pillow is, I made this, I think I made this more than 10 years ago. I don't even remember how long ago. And I looked up this design, embroidery design, and it is no longer available at OESD. So before you ask what it is, I'm sorry, but you can't get it. But it's one of the few pillows I had that I hadn't done my piping on the serger, because I like doing my piping on the serger as well as on my regular machine, because I can. So let's talk about heavy fabric. This is 2 pieces of fleece, and I'm going to put it together. And because of this groove on the bottom, I can run the edge of the fabric right along this groove, and then it will do a complete finished edge. So let's get our machine set up. I am working on the 790 Pro. I have to tell the machine what foot I have so that it's happy. So now I need to select a stitch. I am going to select stitch number 20.
We have an off-topic comment from Joan, but she loves your sweater.
Oh, thank you. Okay, so you can see that I even have, let's basically I need to put my thread through the hole. I'm going to show you a quick trick to do that. When you have a foot that does not have a slit in it, if you take the foot, slide it up past. Can we do that again? Yeah. Okay. If you take the foot and slide it up past the needle, then you can grab the foot and put it down, and then you have the thread where it needs to be. And I'm using a contrasting thread so you can actually see what how it's stitching. And you see on here I have this line. That is the edge of the right groove. So I don't have to guess. Now, if you have problems with it feeding, you can lower your pressure your foot pressure, but this seems to be moving along just fine. I'm going to do this seam, and then I'm going to show you what it looks like.
Are you able to use this foot on the B570?
Absolutely. This foot will go on any of the 9mm feed dogs. If you have a 5.5mm feed dog, say like you have a 475, or you have a 3 series, you can use the 12, not the 12C. And so you can do the same thing. Finished seam. And putting these bulky fabrics together, there is not a lot of bulk in that seam. Let me put it over so you can see the other side too. It's a very nice flat seam. So if you don't have, we're disconnected?
Oh, no, we're back on.
Oh, we're back on, okay. So if you don't have a serger, this is a very viable alternative to seaming these bulky fabrics. This is why it's called the bulky overlock foot, even though I almost never use it that way. How I use it is making piping. So this is piping that is inserted. It's how I do the piping on my pillows, and I will talk about the pillow insertion later. So this is just the piping, and I make continuous bias tape because you need that bias so it will go around curves easier. There's a lot of, if you don't know how to make continuous bias, there's a lot of YouTubes, there's a lot of free information, and then there are some books. And this one does not actually have the continuous bias information in it, but it does have binding and how to put the binding on. So there's a lot of these little books, and you don't really need anything special. You need a rotary cutter, mat, and ruler, and then a calculator that can do square roots. Because why would you want to do it longhand? Even if we know how, which I do, but I don't want to. So and you can make continuous bias as much as you want. If I have a quilt that I have put a scalloped edge on, I will make the continuous bias for my regular quilt binding. But anytime I'm going to go around a curve like on pillows, I'm going to use continuous bias, because it's the easiest way to get a long piece of bias tape without having to cut each individual piece. So now that I have my continuous bias, I am going to take my piping. And this is just your standard 3/16 inch cording. Cotton cording, nothing fancy. You will take whatever you need. If I were doing a pillow, I might need 60 or 70 inches, and then I would have my continuous bias. That would be the same length. Just cut this off. I am not going to make that long because you don't want to sit here for hours watching me do that, but I think you should see how it is done. So I am now going to go back to the straight stitch, and I'm going to move my needle. I'm going to move my needle all the way over to the right. I'm going to put my foot down on top of the cording, and I'm going to drop my needle just so it'll hold it while I can get everything situated. And you'll see that this really works very nicely. And of course, with needle down, every time you stop, the needle goes down, and then you can make sure that you have everything lined up properly. Now, this width of continuous bias was 1.25 inches, because I needed to have room for the cording, and then I needed to be able to have seam allowance. And so now I have made the first part. And it's not right tight against the cording because I don't want this line to be seen. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take, I have some fabric here that I'm going to pretend is my pillow front. And I'm going to lay this against, my raw edges together. And I am going to now use the same needle position, because once again, this is just really basting it in place, making sure all my raw edges are lined up. So you can see that it's not quite exactly on the same line, but it's close enough, because now I'm going to move my needle at least 2 positions over. Possibly, let's move it 3. Because when I put right sides down on top, so this would be my pillow front, this would be my pillow back, and so I'm just going to match up the raw edges. Put my foot down. Make sure you stop frequently and double check to make sure that you are keeping everything in line. And when you go around the curve, because it is biased, it will go in quite nicely. Now when I turn this over, you're going to see, hopefully you'll be able to see, that this was the basting line and this was the insertion line. So now this line, it doesn't have to come out, but no one's going to see it. And you will have your piping inserted beautifully. This is the advantage of having all these wonderful features. Now the other thing you can do, and I'm just going to bring this over here so Kyle, you can, and there, it's a big book of feet, has 4 pages on this foot, And there is a bunch of other things you can do besides the bulky overlock stitch on the fleece or heavy fabrics. There's the piping. You can do a corded edge, because with the edge you'll know where the cord is, and you can then do a overlock stitch with the corded edge. Or if you have beads, you can then use it to put your beads down, and using a zigzag. And you can also put the beads along the edge, so you can have a really pretty. And then also you can see it's a very tiny little picture here where you can use it to cord like the number 21 foot, which I demonstrated 2 weeks, I think it was 2 weeks ago, or maybe it was 3. But yeah, so this foot is a very versatile foot, and it is one of my favorite feet. I went looking for, in '91, I made a pseudo Chanel bag with ultra suede, and that was the first time I used the number 12 foot, and I used it to put the piping in around. And because all the edges were curved, like these are curved here, you don't have to stop. And what you do is you make sure that you have your back is in a couple pieces, and I used buttons this time to close it, and that way when you do it right sides to right sides, you have an opening, and you go all the way around. And then at the bottom, where you have the piping meeting where you started, you clip out the piping from where you started, and clipped out the piping from where you ended, and then you just put them together in one smooth movement. So yeah, let me just button my back up here. I like putting zippers and buttons on the back of my quilts, on the back of my pillows.
Carl says hello, you're an amazing instructor.
Oh, thank you, Carl. Are there other questions?
None that haven't already been answered. Yep.
I mean, this is a wonderful foot, and it just makes life so much simpler, because cording is such a nice feature. You can do cording on garments. You can do cording on pillows. You can do cording on quilts. You can pretty much cord anything you want. You just need to use the number 12 foot because it makes life so much simpler. I find it much easier than using the zipper foot, which is what I used to use before I found out about the number 12. Are there any other questions?
I think that's it.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Well, go play with your machines.
And, oh, yes, this is the foot of the month. Is that correct?
This is the foot of the month,
Yes.
so it's 25% off.
It is 25% off. And don't forget, everybody, we have our handmade market next weekend, the 14th. Well, the 13th and
13th and 14th. And
Yes.
next Saturday is Super Saturday. And if you want that Bernina, you want this 790 Pro, it's a good time. There's 72-month 0% financing next Saturday only.
So we'll see you all in the store, hopefully. All right. Do we have any other announcements?
No, the live market, the handmade market,
Yeah.
and Super Saturday. I think that's all I know about.
Will Chris will fill in anything
Yeah.
missing.
There we go. We've got some people excited about Super Saturday.
Yeah.
Good.
Yep. Come and see us.
All right. And for those who don't know, she's back.
I'm back. And so is Kyle back.
I am.
So we'll have a little bit of an update on how Italy was next Saturday, and hope that we'll kind of show you what we worked on and what our project was. Pretty cool stuff. So it's good to be home. Definitely good to be home. We were well taken care of by the little Italian village mamas, so it was quite nice.